Let us begin to take a moment, and in the next 5 minutes we will do a heart focused breathing technique that will bring us into our coherent space. So let's place awareness in the area of our heart and begin to take slow deep breaths and visualize these flowing in and out of our hearts. Taking slow deep breaths and having these flow in and out of our heart area. And these breaths should be slower than normal and taking them deeper than normal, but let these breaths flow and don't force them. Now feel your body just slowing down and allowing you to prepare for the week. Put a gentle smile on your face. Notice how your body is feeling as you're taking these deep breaths. Are there any areas that feel sluggish to you? And don't think about them, just observe, because we will take care of it. Continue to maintain that awareness in the area of your heart as you take these slow, deep breaths and visualize them flowing in and out of your heart. Do this for a few more seconds. Just take those deep breaths in. Put a gentle smile on your face. Wonderful. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. And now for the I didn't know that moment. Feel free to type your questions in the chat area. If you have any, but we will launch into the I didn't know that moment area. Today's theme is to release your disease energetically. And this has been an area that I've been very interested in because I did such a thing. I used to have diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, and I was taking a host of medications for that, and I was able to find an energetic way to release it. It took me 7 years, but I did it. But I want to share with you something that's a lot more efficient than the 7 years it took me. You could probably do it in 6 weeks, at least begin on the journey of doing that. So let us talk about what that looks like. So if you look at the slide, for those of you who are on the webinar, and those who are on the phone, I'll describe it a bit. If you look at the slide that I show you, it shows you a magnetic field bubble that surrounds a human being. This magnetic field bubble is actually produced by the heart beating. So every time a heart beats, it produces an electrical signal, which then produces a magnetic signal. And the magnetic signal, because your heart is beating all the time, you have a standing magnetic bubble that surrounds you. It's up to between 3 and 8 feet, depending on who you talk to in the laboratories. But it has actually been physically measured. And if you are standing beside a person who's not more than 3 feet away from you, your magnetic bubbles are actually in communication with each other energetically. Now, one more thing to say that HeartMath folks have done some research, and what they've found is your state of emotion is actually information that's carried as an imprint on this magnetic field bubble. Now, if you've done any kind of high school experiments with magnets, you know that you can put a magnet under a piece of paper, put iron filings on top on the upside of the paper, and the iron filings will arrange themselves even though there's a piece of paper in between. Well, let's talk about your body as biology right now. Your body is comprised of 100 trillion cells, and each cell has a function to produce and mobilize your proteins, which actually helps you move. So when you think about you want to walk there are a lot of proteins that are mobilized to help you walk to one area. So every cell is now swimming in the magnetic field, and the magnetic field that your heart produces actually penetrates those cells. As a matter of fact, it penetrates cells of the individuals and organisms around you. So your emotions are actually being imprinted on the cells. Now, if you're feeling frustrated, angry, you can believe that your cells are being informed in that way. So if you take a metaphor of a spring, a bouncy spring that you push down, and then when you release, it actually springs back. And your body and your emotions and your resilience. Let's talk about your resilience. Your resilience is like a spring. If you put stress on it, and stress on it meaning that you feel sad, defeated, angry, frustrated. Stress could also mean that you're running a marathon, and that's putting stress on your resilience. So it's like a spring that is compressed, and when you let go of that spring, it bounces back. And in the biological terms, bouncing back means that you are feeling more appreciative, more compassion, more ease. So when you push the spring down, it's when there is stress, and when you release the spring, when you actually have very little stress, you're actually in a balanced state. So the idea here is for making sure our bodies always bounce back. Now, what happens if we've got chronic stress, which means we're always angry, we're always frustrated, we're always depressed, and it persists over time? What happens is the spring then becomes compressed, and it stays compressed even when the stress points have gone, because the spring, over time, your cells are very intelligent in your body. Just like the spring, over time, it just takes that shape and it remains compressed. Your cells are much like that. Your cells, when you give a signal to your cells saying, I am going to be stressed out and this is my new normal, the stress begins to behave like it's the new normal. And it says, okay, this is the shape the body wants to be, and so we're going to maintain that shape. And so what happens to your resilience? Of course, your resilience is compromised. Now, let's talk about what helps that spring bounce back. So the spring bounces back as you feel more appreciative, compassion, and ease. And when that happens, it slowly starts bouncing back up. So it goes back to restoring that original shape. But it takes time. It takes however long it needs to take, depending on the intensity of the emotion you're feeling that's positive. Now, while you're recovering from that compressed spring state to that original spring state, if there are other stressors that come in, of course, you go back to that compressed state. So the idea is always to recharge yourself every day so that you are moving towards that appreciative compassion and ease. Now, you may ask the question, how do I do that? Because this is a metaphor of what happens to your body and how your cells respond. And remember, when your cells feel compressed like the spring, it produces cortisol. It accelerates your aging process. Like an engine of a car that's revving high all the time, you waste a lot of energy, you feel tired at the end of the day, and that's how diseases manifest themselves. So how do you get rid of this? How do you bounce back? And you can bounce back because your cells are intelligent. The actual algorithm that took it to a compressed state and a stress state is it's still alive and well, so that it will actually bounce back. So let's talk about what that is. And some of us may take medications. When you take medications, it also helps you pull back, but it does that not in a so gentle way. It actually rips the spring back up again, and so you may have deformities in the spring once that happens. That's just a metaphor. And so medication is good if you are trying to intervene very quickly, and that's the way to do it, and you can see a physician about that. But complementary to medications, you can also have massages or take Reiki treatments or some energy healing, and that helps you become more appreciative, instills a compassion in your heart, gives you a sense of ease. You can go on vacation, or you can combine your heart math with any of these modalities. Like people who are on medications will combine heart math to make medications more effective, so you don't have to take that many more medications. Do it with your Reiki treatments, or do it during vacation to actually accelerate your spring bouncing back. Now, if you stick around for the Q&A in the next 5 minutes, I'll share with you a program that I've launched for April that will actually help you accelerate how you bounce back from this area. And so for now, we will now take, that was the 5-minute I didn't know that moment. Good morning, Anar. Thank you for typing that in. And I see a few other people have joined us. Janet and Mila, thank you. And Joanna joined us earlier. So that was your I didn't know that moment. And now let us begin to do the quick coherence technique. This technique is another heart math technique that you can layer over any sort of healing modality that you do. It's not an instead of, it's in addition to, and it actually puts your healing back on steroids. And I will, later on, I will show you the actual study results that happen, so you can for some of the advanced techniques that were done. So let us begin with our next 5 minutes, our quick coherence technique, and let us begin by placing awareness in the area of our heart. And let's take slow, deep breaths and visualize these flowing in and out of our hearts. These breaths are gentle and deeper than normal, and slower than you normally would. And begin to experience a positive feeling such as love, appreciation, or peace. Visualize these springs bouncing right back up as you take these breaths in, signaling your body that your cells are now healing, that you want to reset your new normal. You want to eradicate whatever diseases are there. Diseases are compressed springs. That's all they are. And so begin to release this gently. And bring forward that positive feeling. Spending time with your children. Even go back to when your children were 2, 3 years old, when it was magical for both you and the child. If you remember your childhood, and if it's pick a positive memory in your childhood and begin to bring that forward. When was the last family reunion you had that you had a positive experience to? Bring that forward. And your body doesn't know the difference. All it knows is you're appreciating your experiences in this moment, and your body responds. That spring is bouncing back. You're becoming more resilient. Deep breaths. Wonderful. We are now going to go into the Q&A area. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type in. And as I promised, I wanted to share with you a 4-week coaching program that I've launched. So while people are coming up with questions, I wanted to share this with you. It's a 4-week course, and this introduces some advanced heart math techniques, the stuff that will actually help you bounce right back. I've seen people get off anti-anxiety medications in just one session of an advanced heart math technique, and that has happened to one of my clients. The first thing we're going to do is, first we're going to chart your course. Where are you at? What are your personal goals for this particular session? Then we're going to begin to build resilience. That's the building not only the bounce back on your spring, but to actually increase the height of that spring, so you have a lot bigger bounceability, and that's actually building your capacity to absorb the shocks. And the third one is actually looking at some advanced techniques where you can actually push through your personal fears when you want to advance anywhere, whether it's personal or professional life. And then week 4 is actually applying your personal power and enhancing the relationships, enhancing your ability to sell whatever you're trying to sell, whether it's an idea or a product, or you're trying to convince somebody of your views and opinions. This is actually a very powerful technique that allows you to come from your heart, align yourself with your head, and actually get everybody charged up, inspired about what your ideas are. So those are the 4 techniques, 4 weeks that you will see. And so I wanted to share with you some things that HeartMath did when they actually put together, a simple 8-hour course, over a few weeks. What they found in a particular health facility is that the people that actually did HeartMath practice for a few weeks, their actually costs, medication costs reduced, their medical costs reduced compared to the control group, which actually increased close to 10%. So you have just under a 5% reduction in medical costs of people who are doing HeartMath breathing techniques, and this is measured 3 months after they had the training and they continued their practice on their own, presumably, and with the M-Wave unit. But it was just one big training session, giving them tools and techniques, advanced tools and techniques, and we saw this drop. And this is actually in that publication that you see on the left-hand side there. So that's really the benefit of releasing your disease energetically, and that's the magnetic field and the imprint of the emotions on there. There's a question from Janet. All right, thank you, Janet. Good morning. I had to smile when you started talking about springs today. The first day of spring. Yes. Oh, how wonderful. Yes, thank you for that link. I tried to explain that yesterday was winter and today was spring to my 4-year-old grandson, and he immediately came up with a bunch of springs. Thank you for that, Janet. That could have been an amazing segue to this. I should have started with, hey, it's spring, let's get back into spring. I didn't even think about that. I guess I was just going with whatever I was supposed to go with today. So thank you for sharing that. 4-year-olds are amazing. They haven't been programmed to be chronically stressed. We teach them that. They know how to feel appreciative. They know how to feel great, compassion. But unfortunately, when I was growing up anyways, I unlearned that. And I had to relearn, and it took me 7 years to actually relearn that and connecting with my heart and my mind. I was, talking to one of the individuals I was serving on a board of directors with, and he mentioned to me, we were serving at a youth organization, and he was talking to me about how the youth in the classrooms are very much engaged intellectually, but they seldom feel. And I said to him, that's because they've unlearned how to feel, and somehow we have to find a way to inspire. If we wanted to sell an item, we all know that selling something, whether it's an idea, an opinion, or a product, people buy from emotions. And when people buy from emotions, that means that they can buy from an emotion of fear. Hurry, buy now, or you're going to lose out. And that's a fear-based emotional selling. Or, hey, wouldn't you feel amazing if this happened to you? Or if you buy this product, imagine yourself feeling awesome. Those are the two different ways of feeling. And so children know that they buy into inspirational based ideas. If you inspire them, it'll just be energetically imbued in them. If you scare them, then that is the way they're going to move into life, in a very fear-based world. So good on you, Janet, for Talking about springs to your 4-year-old grandson, that is a this is the time of fairies and wonderment and playfulness. So wonderful. Thank you for bringing that to us. Are there any other comments or questions? Janet. Thanks. Janet says, thanks. I had some back pain in the area of the heart. When we started it, it has eased off. Ah, how wonderful. Sometimes these, energetically, when you're ready, it releases. I had one client who was depressed. She was actually in grief. Her husband had died a few months back, and she became quite depressed, and she wasn't able to feel anymore. And some people take a long time to get out of that and stop grieving. It takes years. And so I took her through a more advanced heart math technique called the heart lock-in technique. And I didn't expect anything to happen. I was going to ask her to do some homework and practice this for a few weeks and see how she feels. Within 2 minutes, she had tears, and she was already beginning to feel the emotions. So she was on a journey to just expand. Sometimes you are ready. When you are ready, you are ready. And this will happen to you. So I'm so happy that this happened, Janet. Continue to do this practice and make sure that whatever stressors caused that back pain is now alleviated and your spring back to the original shape. So continue this practice to make sure that your springs are maintained well. Thank you for sharing that, Janet. Wonderful. Any other questions? Wonderful. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm always accessible by email. Feel free to connect with me there, and I'm happy to chat with you. I've had a few people do that, and I'm happy to respond to you. So if there's nothing else, I want to wish you a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.